Hi, my name is Sebastian Aguilar, and today I would like to talk about the conflict between the cricketers of Australia and the Australian Cricketers Association. And this was in the year 2018, in which um, a player named Cameron Bancroft of the Australian cricket team was caught on television during a game manipulating with the ball to tamper with it in order to gain an uncompetitive advantage or a competitive advantage in their match against South Africa. And through further investigation, it was seen that two of the captains of that Australian team, named David Warner and Steve Smith, were found to be the quote unquote puppet masters of the entire operation. It was seen that Warner instructed Bancroft in how to get away with tampering with the ball in order to gain that advantage, and that Smith was known to have known about the instance and did not do anything to prevent it. So therefore, all three players were designated a 12-month ban from all international and domestic cricket, plus no consideration for leadership positions for an entire year after the instance. And so from the ACA's perspective, which is the Australian Cricketers Association, these sanctions were deemed far too intense, far too strict, and especially far too harsh of a punishment for something that was unprecedented in the history of Australian cricket. It was seen that this would give the players a bad rap for exactly, something that wasn't deemed to be a multi-million-dollar violation. Yet from the Cricket Australia's perspective, Australia was seen as the standard of fair play, good play, and just the standard of etiquette of how you conduct yourself as a cricket organization. So they had to send the message. They wanted a zero tolerance policy on any type of cheating, any type of competitive advantage that you could get that was unjust by the rules. So they didn't want anyone in further instances to take that risk of trying to challenge the integrity of the game from the Australia's cricket perspective. And of course, the underlying mutual interest of the ACA and Cricket Australia includes the fact that they both want to give the people of Australia the high quality teams and overall good impression of Australia through these high quality teams that would make the sport of cricket in Australia far more marketable and far more remarked for potential fans internationally. They want to expand. They want to be able to have a bigger fan base, more revenue in order to pay the players more and have more TV time. That was in the best interest of Australian cricket. Yet it makes the overall team and players seem like cheaters whenever an instance like this occurs. So of course, from both sides, one didn't want their players to seem as big of cheaters as the punishments were forced upon them, and the other doesn't want to be embarrassed. They don't want, or from the side of Cricket Australia's perspective, they didn't want people thinking that they could push them around, that people could do whatever they wanted. They wanted to be able to send the message and not have quote unquote slimy players playing for the continent of Australia. So they wanted to be taken seriously as a disciplinary figure. So I believe mediation and compromise are the main ways that could be used in resolving the conflict. It would aid both parties to not be so hard-headed in the communication of the conflict for two main reasons. One is that the more each side sticks to their guns, there won't be anything accomplished, and it would seem that both sides aren't acting in the best interest of Australia's image. It would simply just be an act of pride from both the ACA and Cricket Australia for their both opposing sides. And number two, and most importantly, any future dialogues between the two parties would seem to have a lingering bitterness that would seem to impact on future businesses, on future dialogues between the two, some things that could be very big, useful helps for cricket in Australia, would seem to be hurt in the end, which is what nobody wants. And this goes to my next point, which is the best form of negotiation, from my perspective, would be through integrative bargaining. Now, this is a part of bargaining, this is a type of bargaining that both parties seem to get a little bit of what they want in order to have the best future for Australian cricket be preserved. And I believe it should be through some sort of mediation. And when I say mediation, I mean a third party, non-biased, non-Australian entity that would advise both sides to think about how a neutral party would deem to be appropriate. Because from the ACA's perspective, these punishments make their players seem like they are simply awful. And from Cricket Australia's perspective, they also don't want to be seen as someone to be taken lightly. So I believe through other cricket disciplinary associations, through other countries, maybe through other sports. I know Major League Baseball, the Astros had their own cheating scandal in the MLB, which could have been a big help in an advisement for them. And it just would have been very helpful for a neutral perspective. And of course, the factor that would need to be managed and resolved would be the personalities of ACA President Greg Dyer and CEO of Cricket Australia, James Sutherland. And from the numerous reports since the sanctions were announced by Sutherland in a press conference, it seemed that Dyer was outraged and would not back down from these unfair punishments that could cost these players tens of millions of dollars. And it also seems that Sutherland and the rest of Cricket Australia had no interest in discussing the sanctions due to the messages they once sent. So all in all, I believe a third-party mediation would have been the best form of conflict management in this instance.